Alex Chen walked through the glass doors of TechVision's main building with his usual confidence. The security guard nodded at him with a kind of respect that went beyond the usual morning greeting. Everyone at TechVision knew who Alex was. In just 3 years, he had gone from a regular programmer to the company's most valuable employee. The morning sun reflected off the large windows as Alex made his way to his corner desk. Unlike other team members who kept family photos or funny quotes on their desks, Alex's space was clean and focused, just like his mind. His laptop, 3 extra monitors, and a coffee mug that read, "I'm not arguing. I'm explaining why I'm right." "Morning, genius," said Raj, one of the developers on Alex's team. Raj always came in early, almost as early as Alex. "Hey," Alex replied without looking up, already typing away. Code filled his screens, lines and lines of it that would look like gibberish to most people. But to Alex, it was a world he had built from nothing. 3 years ago, TechVision was just another struggling tech company, trying to make a name for itself in the crowded data analytics market. Their products were average at best, and they were losing clients to bigger competitors. Then they hired Alex. Within 6 months, Alex had completely rebuilt their main software from the ground up. He worked crazy hours, sometimes sleeping at the office, fueled by energy drinks and pure determination. The result was DataSite, a platform so powerful and user-friendly that clients started switching to TechVision just to use it. "The quarterly meeting is today," Raj reminded him. "Everyone's talking about the new CEO's big announcement." Alex barely nodded. The company had recently hired a new CEO, Diana Powell. Alex hadn't bothered to learn much about her, except that she came from some big company and had no technical background. At least that's what he assumed. Just another suit who would take credit for the work of people like him. "I hope she doesn't try to change things too much," Raj continued. "The last thing we need is someone messing with our development process." "Let her try," Alex said, finally looking up from his screen with a small smile. "This whole company runs on my code. They can bring in whoever they want, but at the end of the day, they need me more than I need them." This wasn't just Alex showing off. It was the truth, and everyone knew it. The DataSite platform was essentially Alex's creation. What had started as a junior position had quickly grown into him, leading a team of 5 developers. But even with the team, Alex kept the most critical parts of the system to himself. No one else fully understood how all the pieces fit together. It was job security, he told himself. Later that morning, Alex sat in the break room, going through emails on his phone while half listening to the conversations around him. "I heard she turned around 3 failing departments at her last company," someone was saying. "Apparently she's tough but fair," added another voice. "My friend at NetSphere said people there actually cried when she announced she was leaving." Alex rolled his eyes. Office gossip about the new boss was always the same, a mix of fear and hope that things would finally get better. In his experience, new executives came in with big talk about change and vision, but few actually understood the technical realities of what they were promising. Back at his desk, Alex got a message from Lee, another developer on his team. "Ready for the meeting? Heard the new CEO is making some big changes." Alex typed back, "Whatever, as long as they don't expect us to completely rebuild DataSite in some impossible time frame." Little did Alex know that just 3 floors above him, Diana Powell was reviewing his personnel file along with detailed technical documentation about the DataSite platform. Unlike many executives, Diana had spent 15 years as a software engineer before moving to management. She had a doctorate in computer science and had personally led the development of several successful products. Diana had been specifically brought in to transform TechVision from a one-hit wonder into a scalable organization with proper processes and a healthy culture. The board had been clear. The company was too dependent on a single employee, and that was a major business risk they needed to address. "So, this is our star engineer," Diana said, looking at Alex's photo in his file. Next to her, the HR director nodded. "Brilliant but difficult," the HR director explained. "His former manager basically let him do whatever he wanted because he was afraid of losing him. No code reviews, no documentation requirements, No real collaboration. Diana nodded, thoughtfully. And how does the team feel about him? They respect his skills, but several have complained about his attitude. He dismisses their input and makes them feel like they're not good enough. 2 talented developers left last year, citing him as a major reason. Diana closed the file and leaned back in her chair. Technical brilliance without teamwork creates bottlenecks, not breakthroughs. It seems we have 2 challenges here: making our platform more sustainable and helping our stars see that real success comes from lifting others up, not standing alone. As the time for the quarterly meeting approached, employees began filing into the large conference room. Alex arrived just before the meeting started, taking a seat in the middle rows. He didn't notice how Diana Powell's eyes found him immediately, or the slight smile that crossed her face. The new CEO had a plan, and Alex Chen was about to learn that technical skill alone wasn't enough in the real world of business. The stage was set for a clash of perspectives that would change both of them forever. The large conference room was packed by 10 a.m. People from every department sat shoulder to shoulder, the excitement in the air almost electric. Quarterly meetings were usually boring updates about numbers and targets, but today was different. Today they would hear the new CEO's vision for the company's future. Alex found a seat in the 3rd row next to Raj and Lee. He noticed how people kept glancing toward the door, waiting for Diana Powell to arrive. "Never seen everyone so excited about a meeting before," Raj whispered. Alex shrugged. "People always get excited about new leadership. Give it a month and it'll be back to the same old complaints." Just then, the room fell quiet as Diana Powell walked in. She wasn't what Alex had expected. No power suit or flashy jewelry, just simple black pants, a blue button-up shirt, and a confident walk that commanded attention without trying. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical style, and she carried just a small tablet instead of the usual stack of papers executives seemed to love. "Good morning, everyone," Diana began, her voice clear and strong without being overly loud. "I know many of you haven't met me yet, so let me start by saying how excited I am to be part of the Tech Vision team." Alex tried not to roll his eyes. "Standard new boss talk. I've spent the last month reviewing our products, our market position, and most importantly, talking with many of you about where we can go from here," Diana continued, clicking through to her first slide. "What I've found is that we have an incredible foundation to build on, thanks to the hard work of everyone in this room." A graph appeared on the screen showing industry growth rates across different sectors. As you can see, there's one area that's growing faster than any other: healthcare data analytics. Hospitals, insurance companies, research facilities, they're all desperate for better ways to handle their data. Diana clicked to the next slide, which showed a modified version of their DataSite platform with healthcare-specific features. "I believe TechVision is perfectly positioned to become a leader in this space. Our DataSite platform already has most of the core functionality needed." Alex sat up straighter, suddenly paying full attention. She was talking about his platform, his code. "This strategic shift will require some significant changes to our core product," Diana explained, outlining new features like patient data privacy controls and medical billing integration. "We'll need to implement these changes over the next 6 months to catch the market at the perfect time." 6 months? Alex felt his face getting hot. He looked at the complicated diagrams on the screen showing all the proposed changes to his system. "We'll need everyone's expertise to make this happen, but I'm confident we can do it," Diana said, smiling at the room. "Now, I'm sure you have questions." Alex couldn't contain himself any longer. He raised his hand, and without waiting to be called on, stood up. "With all due respect," he began, his voice louder than he intended, "this plan shows a complete misunderstanding of our product architecture." People turned in their seats to look at him. He could feel Raj tugging at his sleeve, trying to get him to sit down, but Alex continued. "These changes would require rebuilding from the ground up. Whoever came up with this clearly doesn't understand software development." A hush fell over the room. The comfortable atmosphere from moments ago vanished instantly. Everyone knew who had come up with this. Their new CEO, standing right there at the podium, now looking directly at Alex. Diana's face remained calm, but there was a slight change in her posture. She stood a bit straighter. "Thank you for your input, Alex," she said, her voice still even. "I'd be happy to discuss the technical considerations after the meeting. For now, let's continue with the presentation." But Alex wasn't finished. The fact that she wasn't arguing back only fueled his frustration. "We're wasting everyone's time discussing an impossible timeline," he continued, feeling justified by what he saw as a defense of reality against fantasy promises. "I built this platform, and I'm telling you, this can't be done in 6 months. Maybe someone should have consulted the engineering team before making these decisions." The silence in the room deepened. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. One of the department heads in the front row coughed awkwardly. Alex suddenly realized how quiet it had gotten. Looking around, he saw expressions ranging from shock to embarrassment on his colleagues' faces. A few people were staring at the floor, clearly uncomfortable with the confrontation. Diana's expression remained neutral, but those in the front row noticed her knuckles whitening as she gripped the podium. For a moment, no one spoke. The room felt like it was holding its breath. When Diana finally broke the silence, her voice was calm but carried an unmistakable firmness. "Thank you, Alex. We'll table this discussion for now," she said. Her eyes locked with his in a way that made him suddenly aware of how public his outburst had been. "Please see me in my office immediately following this meeting." She turned back to the rest of the room smoothly. "Now, as I was saying about the market opportunity." Alex slowly sat down, feeling dozens of eyes on him. Lee leaned over and whispered, "Dude, what were you thinking?" For the first time that day, Alex had no ready answer. As Diana continued her presentation, he barely heard the words. All he could think about was what would happen in her office after the meeting. He'd seen executives come and go before, but something about Diana Powell's calm response to his challenge made him wonder if he'd seriously misjudged the situation. The meeting continued for another 30 minutes, but for Alex, it felt like hours. His mind raced between defending his position and wondering if he'd finally gone too far. By the time people began filing out of the conference room, his confident indignation had been replaced by a growing knot of uncertainty in his stomach. Alex stood outside Diana's office, his hand frozen before knocking. Through the frosted glass, he could see her silhouette as she moved around the room. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Raj. "How bad is it? We're all wondering." He didn't reply. What could he say? That he'd publicly challenged the new CEO in front of the entire company? That he'd basically called her clueless? Taking a deep breath, he knocked. "Come in," Diana's voice called. Her office was different from what the previous CEO had maintained. Gone were the expensive artwork and oversized mahogany desk. Instead, the space was practical and bright, with a simple desk, 2 computer monitors, and a small meeting table by the window. The walls had whiteboards covered with diagrams and notes rather than awards and certificates. "Have a seat, Alex," Diana said, gesturing to a chair across from her desk. She wasn't smiling, but she didn't look angry either. There was something in her expression Alex couldn't quite read. He sat down, still feeling confident he was right about the technical issues, even if he could have expressed it better. "Look, about the meeting." "Before you continue," Diana interrupted calmly, "I'd like to clarify a few things." She turned her monitor toward him, showing a detailed technical document with architecture diagrams of the data site platform. "Alex, before joining TechVision, I spent 5 years as the Chief Technology Officer at Medisoft Systems, overseeing the development of HIPAA-compliant healthcare analytics software," Diana began. Her voice wasn't loud, but every word landed with precision. "Before that, I spent 15 years as a software engineer and engineering manager. I actually wrote my doctoral thesis on scalable database architectures." Alex felt his mouth go dry. This wasn't the conversation he'd been expecting. "You have a doctorate in computer science?" he asked, suddenly aware of how little he knew about her. "Yes." Diana nodded. "From MIT. My specialty was actually in distributed systems design, with a focus on extensible architectures." She pointed to one of the diagrams on her screen. "Which is why I know that your assumption about needing to rebuild DataSite from scratch is incorrect." Alex leaned forward to look at the screen. What he saw made his stomach tighten. It was a detailed analysis of the DataSite codebase. His codebase, with notes and suggestions that showed a deep understanding of the system. "When did you?" he started to ask. "My first week here," Diana replied. "I spent 3 nights going through the code myself. Your work is impressive, Alex. The core architecture is actually quite elegant." She clicked to a different screen showing a plan for extending the system. "But here's what you missed. The healthcare features we need can mostly be implemented as extensions rather than core changes. The database abstraction layer you built actually allows for this kind of flexibility if you leverage these connection points here and here." Alex stared at the screen, his mind racing to process what she was showing him. She was right. The approach could work, and he had missed it. But more shocking than that was the realization that his new CEO had not only understood his code, but had found capabilities in it that even he hadn't fully explored. He struggled to find words. "I didn't realize you had this kind of technical background." "Clearly," Diana said dryly. She closed the diagram and turned the monitor back. "Alex, what I find concerning isn't your technical disagreement. That's valuable. It's your approach. You chose to publicly undermine a strategic direction without having all the facts, and you did so disrespectfully." She opened a drawer and took out a folder. "This is a formal warning for unprofessional conduct." She slid the document across the desk. "Additionally, I'm reassigning you from team lead to individual contributor for the next 3 months." "What?" Alex felt like he'd been slapped. "You can't do that. I'm the only one who fully understands the system." "That's precisely the problem," Diana replied, leaning forward slightly. "No company should be dependent on a single person. Knowledge hoarding isn't leadership, it's a liability. You've created a bottleneck that we need to address." Alex felt heat rising to his face. "So this is punishment for speaking up? For pointing out problems?" "No." Diana shook her head. "It's a consequence of how you spoke up. And it's an opportunity for you to learn something valuable." She looked at him steadily. "You're an exceptional engineer, Alex. But technical skills alone don't make someone a good leader." The words stung because deep down Alex knew there was truth in them. He had always believed his value came from being the smartest person in the room, from knowing things others didn't. "The team will fall apart without me leading them," he said, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. "I don't think so," Diana replied. "I've already spoken with Raj and Lee. They both have good ideas they've never felt able to share. Did you know Lee worked on healthcare data systems for 3 years before joining TechVision?" Alex blinked in surprise. "No, I didn't." "Because you never asked," Diana said simply. "Leadership starts with listening, not telling." She stood up, indicating the meeting was ending. "Tom will be taking over as interim team lead. You'll report to him starting tomorrow. We're also bringing in a senior architect to help document the system properly and implement a knowledge-sharing program." "And what if I decide to leave?" Alex asked, trying to regain some control of the situation. "What happens to your 6-month timeline then?" Diana looked at him for a long moment before answering. "That would be disappointing, but not devastating. No one is irreplaceable, Alex. Not me, not you." She paused. "But I hope you stay. I think there's an opportunity here for you to become not just a better engineer, but a better colleague. Sometimes we need to be humbled before we can grow." Alex picked up the warning letter from the desk, his mind a storm of conflicting emotions. Anger, embarrassment, and underneath it all, a nagging sense that perhaps he deserved this. "The healthcare project starts next Monday," Diana continued. "You'll be working on the data privacy module. It aligns with your skills and it's critical to the project's success. I think you'll find it challenging in a good way." As Alex walked out of her office, he felt strangely off balance, like the ground beneath his feet had shifted. For the first time in years, he wasn't the most knowledgeable person in the room. And for the first time ever, someone had called him out on behavior he'd always justified as the privilege of being indispensable. Back at his desk, he looked around at the team he would no longer be leading. Raj was talking animatedly with Lee about something on his screen. Had he really never known about Lee's healthcare experience? What else had he missed while being so focused on proving his own brilliance? Alex opened his laptop and pulled up the datasite codebase. He stared at the familiar lines of code, seeing them differently now. There was pride there. Yes, he had built something good. But there was also a heaviness in realizing how he had used his knowledge as a wall to keep others out rather than a bridge to bring them in. Tomorrow would be his first day as just another team member. The thought made him uncomfortable, but somewhere beneath the discomfort was a small voice wondering if maybe, just maybe, this was exactly what he needed. The next few weeks were unlike anything Alex had experienced in his professional life. For the first time since joining TechVision, he wasn't calling the shots. Each morning, he joined the team stand-up meeting not as the leader but as just another developer reporting to Tom, the new interim team lead. "Alex, what are you working on today?" Tom would ask, in the same straightforward tone he used with everyone else. The first time Tom had asked him that, Alex had almost snapped back with something sarcastic. But he'd caught himself, remembering Diana's words about leadership and respect. "Still working on the patient data privacy module," he'd answered instead. "Should have the encryption layer finished by tomorrow." Tom had simply nodded and moved on to Lee. No special treatment, no acknowledgement of Alex's previous status. Just another team member with tasks to complete. The senior architect Diana had brought in was named Priya, a woman in her 40s with gray-streaked hair and a no-nonsense approach that reminded Alex a little of his favorite college professor. Unlike what Alex had feared, she hadn't come in to criticize his work. Instead, she'd approached it with genuine interest and respect. "This pattern you've used for the analytics engine is quite clever," she'd said during their first code review session. "But let's document why you chose it, so others can understand your thinking." That simple phrase, "so others can understand," kept coming up in ways that made Alex increasingly aware of how he'd been working. Priya had implemented a knowledge-sharing program that included pair programming, documentation standards, and weekly technical talks where team members could explain different parts of the system. To his surprise, these sessions revealed that his teammates were far more capable than he'd given them credit for. Lee, who had indeed worked on healthcare systems before, spotted several optimizations for handling patient records that Alex had missed. Raj had an almost intuitive understanding of user experience that made the interface improvements he suggested immediately valuable. The most surprising thing wasn't their skills, it was realizing how much Alex himself was learning by listening to them. 3 weeks into the healthcare pivot project, Alex was working late, trying to solve a particularly tricky problem with the encryption system. Most people had gone home, but the light in Diana's office was still on. Through the glass wall, he could see her focused on her computer screen. After wrestling with the problem for another hour without progress, Alex decided to do something he would never have considered before: ask for help. He walked up to Diana's office and knocked lightly on the open door. She looked up, appearing slightly surprised to see him. "Alex, you're here late." "So are you," he replied, then hesitated. "I'm stuck on something with the encryption module. I know you have a background in this, would you mind taking a look?" If Diana was surprised by his request, she didn't show it. "Of course. What's the issue?" For the next 45 minutes, they sat side by side at her desk, going through the code. Diana didn't just offer solutions. She asked questions that made Alex think differently about the problem. By the time they found a working approach, Alex had to admit it was better than what he would have come up with alone. "Thanks for this," he said as they wrapped up. "I didn't expect that I'd actually know what I was talking about." Diana finished with a small smile. Alex had the grace to look embarrassed. "Something like that. I'm not used to executives who can code. And I'm not used to engineers who are willing to ask for help when they need it," Diana countered. "That's progress." Their conversation shifted to the project as a whole and how the team was adapting to the new approach. To Alex's surprise, it felt like a conversation between colleagues rather than boss and employee. "May I ask you something?" Alex said finally. "Why did you decide to become an executive? You clearly have the technical skills to be a top engineer or architect." Diana considered the question. "I realized I could have more impact by helping build teams than by building code myself." She glanced at him. "The best code in the world doesn't matter if there's no one to maintain it, improve it, or actually use it for something meaningful." On his way home that night, Alex found himself thinking about her words. For years, he'd measured his worth by the complexity of problems he could solve alone. The idea that impact might come from enabling others was foreign to him, but he couldn't dismiss it as easily as he once would have. The following week brought another surprise. During a team meeting, Tom presented a particularly challenging issue. They were facing with the healthcare regulations compliance. "Any thoughts on how we should approach this?" Tom asked the room. Alex had an idea, but for once he held back, curious to see what others would suggest. After a moment, Raj spoke up with a solution that was different from what Alex had been thinking. And honestly, probably better. "That could work," Alex found himself saying. "What if we combined it with a caching layer to improve performance?" Raj looked at him with surprise, then nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, that would solve the latency issue I was worried about." It was a small moment, but it felt significant. For the first time, Alex had built on someone else's idea, instead of dismissing it in favor of his own. The look of appreciation on Raj's face made him realize how rare this kind of interaction had been before. As the days passed, Alex found himself sleeping better at night. The constant pressure of being the only one who understood the system was lifting as knowledge was properly shared. And though he wouldn't admit it out loud, there was a certain relief in not having to be the smartest person in the room every minute of every day. One evening, Alex found himself alone in the break room with Lee, both of them grabbing coffee before a late meeting. "Can I ask you something?" Alex said hesitantly. "Was I really that bad to work with before?" Lee looked at him for a long moment, then said, simply, "You never asked what we thought. You just told us what to do." The words hit hard because they were true. All this time, Alex had been so focused on proving his technical brilliance that he'd never stopped to wonder what that meant for the people around him. "I'm sorry," he said, the words feeling strange but necessary. "I didn't realize how that felt for everyone else." Lee shrugged but gave a small smile. "You're different now. That's what matters." As they walked back to the meeting room together, Alex realized something had fundamentally shifted. The team was working better than ever. The healthcare project was on track, and somehow being just one valuable part of the team felt more satisfying than being the lone genius ever had. The realization wasn't comfortable. It meant acknowledging how wrong he'd been, but it felt like growth. And for the first time in his career, Alex was beginning to understand that there might be more to professional success than technical skill alone. 6 months passed faster than Alex could have imagined. What had once seemed like a punishment, being removed as team lead, had turned into something unexpectedly valuable. The healthcare analytics platform was launching today, and the whole company was buzzing with excitement. Alex straightened his collar as he looked in the bathroom mirror. He'd actually bought a new shirt for the launch event, dark blue with a subtle pattern. Not his usual plain t-shirt or hoodie. It felt right somehow, marking this day as different from all the others. His phone pinged with a message from Raj. "Big day. See you at the launch." Alex smiled as he typed back. "Wouldn't miss it. Proud of what we built together." The word "together" would have felt foreign to him 6 months ago. Back then, everything was "I built" or "my code." The shift hadn't happened overnight. It had come in small moments, staying late to help Lee debug a tricky issue, letting Raj take the lead on the user interface redesign, working with Priya to document parts of the system he'd previously kept to himself. The conference room was transformed for the launch event. Balloons in the company colors hung from the ceiling, a table of refreshments lined one wall, and a large screen showed the new Data Health Platform logo, a sleek redesign of their original product for the healthcare market. As Alex entered, he spotted his team gathered near the windows. They waved him over, faces bright with the special energy that comes from completing something meaningful. "There he is," Raj called out. "The encryption wizard himself." "Please, don't ever call me that again," Alex laughed, accepting a cup of coffee from Lee. "The privacy module passed all the security audits with flying colors," Lee told him. "The hospital group we're partnering with said it's the most comprehensive system they've seen." 6 months ago, praise for his work would have felt like his due. Today, it felt different, like a confirmation that he'd contributed something valuable to a shared effort. "None of it would matter without your user interface," Alex told Raj. "Making all those complex features actually usable was the real magic." Raj looked momentarily surprised by the compliment, then smiled. "Team effort, right?" "Absolutely," Alex agreed, meaning it completely. The room gradually filled with people from every department: marketing staff who had created the promotional materials, sales teams who had already secured 3 major hospital clients, administrative staff who had supported the project in countless ways. Diana Powell entered the room last, pausing to speak with several people on her way to the front. Alex noticed how differently he saw her now, not as an obstacle or an opponent, but as someone who had seen potential in both the product and in him that he himself had missed. "If I could have everyone's attention," Diana called, and the room quieted. "Today marks an important milestone for TechVision. 6 months ago, we set an ambitious goal to pivot our flagship product into the healthcare space with data health." She gestured to the screen where the platform demo began playing. "What you're seeing is the result of extraordinary teamwork across every department. This isn't just a software product. It's a solution that will help healthcare providers better serve their patients through improved data analytics." The screen showed patient charts, predictive models for treatment outcomes, and privacy controls that would protect sensitive information. Alex felt a surge of pride seeing features he had helped build. But more than that, he felt proud of how the entire system worked together, parts created by different people coming together into something greater than any of them could have built alone. "I want to thank everyone who contributed to making this happen," Diana continued, "particularly the development team who worked tirelessly to rebuild our platform to meet the specific needs of the healthcare industry." She took a small pause, her eyes finding Alex in the crowd. "I'd like to recognize one person in particular, Alex Chen, not just for his technical contributions, but for something much more difficult: personal growth." Alex felt his face warm as people turned to look at him. "Alex has transformed from someone who believed his value came from being irreplaceable to someone who makes the entire team better," Diana said. "That kind of transformation is rare and worth celebrating." Applause erupted around him. Alex was surprised to see genuine smiles on his colleagues' faces, not the forced politeness he might have received in the past, but real appreciation. The respect he now received felt more genuine than the fearful deference he'd previously mistaken for admiration. After the presentation ended and people broke into smaller groups, Diana made her way over to where Alex stood. "Congratulations," she said. "The encryption and privacy modules are remarkable. You should be proud." "Thank you," Alex replied. "But I'm actually more proud of the team we've built than any code I wrote." Diana smiled, looking pleased by his answer. "I have a proposal for you, Alex. We're creating a new role, Chief Architect. It would involve less hands-on coding and more mentoring, system design, and cross-team collaboration. I think you'd be perfect for it." Alex blinked in surprise. 6 months ago, being pulled away from direct coding would have felt like a punishment. Now the idea of helping others build their skills while still influencing technical direction sounded right. 6 months ago, I would have seen that as a demotion from writing code, Alex admitted with a small laugh. Now I see it's actually a promotion to building something more important, a team that can achieve things I never could alone. Diana extended her hand. "So you'll accept?" "Absolutely," Alex replied, shaking her hand firmly. "And thank you, not just for the opportunity, but for the lesson. Sometimes the tables need to turn for us to see things clearly." Later that evening, the launch party had wound down to just a few people. Alex found himself standing by the window, looking out at the city lights coming on as dusk settled. Raj joined him, 2 cups of coffee in hand. He offered one to Alex. "So, chief architect, huh?" Raj said with a smile. "Impressive." "Still feels a bit strange," Alex admitted, "but in a good way." "You'll be great at it," Raj said sincerely. "You know, when you first got demoted, we all thought you'd quit within a week." Alex laughed. "Honestly, so did I." "What made you stay?" Raj asked. Alex thought about it for a moment. "Pride at first. I didn't want to let Diana win." He shook his head at the memory. "But then, I guess I started to see things differently. The team accomplished more together than I ever could have alone. And that felt good, being part of something bigger than just me." Through the glass walls of the conference room, he could see Diana, talking with Priya and some of the other team leads. They had created something valuable together, not just a successful product, but a way of working that brought out the best in everyone. "Sometimes you need someone to hold up a mirror," Alex said quietly. "I'm just glad I finally looked." As he gazed around at his colleagues celebrating their collective achievement, Alex realized he had gained something more valuable than technical recognition or even a promotion. He had learned that true success comes not from being irreplaceable, but from helping create something that surpasses what any individual could accomplish alone. The tables had indeed turned, and he was grateful they had.